Hello everybody and welcome to Greenstar Trading with me, Tom. All views, opinions and ideas expressed in this video are my own and do not constitute financial or trading advice in any way. Right, continuing this week's theme of looking at a series of altcoins as well as our usual assets, we're going to be taking a look at Link USD today, Chainlink. Now, I'll start off by saying that the running theme I've been putting forward this week is that we're close to the bottom. Now, careful with how you interpret what I say, because I haven't said we are at the bottom. I've caveated every count with saying we could still go lower. So yesterday in XRP, I suggested that we were completing in a wave 4 before we had a fifth wave down. In Solana previously, I suggested that we may have bottomed already, or we could still go lower. Now, same here in Link USD today. We could have bottomed already, or we could go lower. My point being is that we are imminently close to the bottom. Now, when I say that, I'm talking with a correction that's gone on for over a year. We are now within a series of weeks of finding a sustainable low. That's what I think we're at. Now, the reason I believe that is when I look at a lot of these charts, we're saying that we've had an impulse up and then we're having a three-way correction back. Now, if you believe that this was an impulse, and take your pick, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Chainlink, ADA, whatever. If you think you've witnessed an impulse to the high, you're expecting a three wave move back to a higher low, not a lower low, and that you are now going to go higher again in a wave 3. Okay, or in a wave 5 if you're looking at the counts which we consider to be in a wave 4, and this goes all the way back to an idea where I was suggesting that the first generation coins, including Bitcoin itself, we're looking at likely being in a wave 4, and I use that term first generation very loosely, and a lot of the altcoin market of more modern coins are making their first primary 1 into primary 2 move and are playing catch up because they started much later, they started their count much later, they've got to pull in a 1 before they can pull in a 3. It's that simple, and I think that 1 came in and now we're working on the 2. And we will enter a wave 3, and that wave 3 will be significantly bigger than the wave 1, and it will take us to, well, not the moon, it will take us to Pluto, because wave 3 will not be the shortest wave of 5, so it's going to be a huge move up when we do finally bottom. And you could call me a moon boy, but it wouldn't be accurate, because I think we're going way beyond that, okay, as and when we find it, but we've got to find it first. So that's the ongoing theme. What I see here is an impulse into a wave 1. Now, we don't really need to bother about that because we've had a 90% sell-off since the highs. Alright, so coming to the conclusion of, oh, this was the top and this is therefore a 1 and this is 2, isn't a particularly large or significant mental breakthrough or a leap to make in Elliott wave. It's just a massive sell-off. 90% is a big one, and this has to be really a wave 2. We can't really logically consider it to be something else, I don't think. So on that basis, let's look at how I've counted down the correction here. Now, a lot of these altcoin charts are messy, and I said the other day how I go back and forth between the line chart and the candlestick chart just to check how things look, and my preference is towards overall structure than it is to the specific inclusion of every wick of every candle, but I will try and do the best I can to do that. Now, the way I see this, as a primary, we have an alternate to look at as well, is as a double zigzag. 535 to here for a W, a WXY to here for the X. Now you could count this as 535, but I can't get this to subdivide neatly as diagonal, and it sure as hell doesn't look like an impulse. So I prefer to look at it as another 535 structure. I then have a leading diagonal, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, leading diagonal of the contracting variety into a wave A. Now we're allowed 5 waves in the leading diag, but you could probably, if you wanted to, pick this apart as a zigzag and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, C. The point is, let's not obsess over detail. We've identified what looks like a diagonal, so let's run with it. It's a contracting pattern where the 5 is shorter than the 3, the 4 is smaller than the 2, and the 3 is smaller than the 1. It exactly fits what we'd expect to see. 3-wave move into the B here, and then we descend 1, 2, potentially 3, 4, 5, done, C, Y, 2, 1, 2, and off we go. Or we're in a wave 4. Now, I don't like the relationship of this 1, 2 and this 3, 4. The 4 looks a little too big. for me. Now, I'm not saying it's not possible, it's still legal, it just looks a little odd. So we could have a further move down in a fifth to complete, or we may have bottomed. So what we're going to do is just turn the count off now, and we're going to come into the low and see if we can justify this being the low, this big bullish looking candle with the long wick to the downside. So let's just, now we see how in the line chart we got a lower low here. Okay, so we could not call this the low if we were looking at this in the line chart. Now if we are going to take that wick into account, we can make this work. Now let's just come all the way back to the hour chart, shall we? And I'll show you how this low looks. Now, what I find interesting here is you've got an argument for a diagonal. Excuse me, let's try that again. You've got an argument for a diagonal, but it is not a pretty one. Okay, we could say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 is shorter than the 3, 3 is shorter than the 1, 4 is smaller than the 2. It's a diagonal. However, it's missing, it's not a good looking one. In a contracting diagonal, we expect to see very commonly a throw over at the end. The fifth wave will overthrow or throw over the structure like this. This does not occur. Now in an expanding diagonal we expect to see the fifth fail to do that more commonly than actually do it. This is not an expanding variety, this is a contracting variety, so that's a little peculiar. What's further peculiar is the fact that it's actually truncated. It is slightly lower than the close of the 3. Okay, we've got a little more wick to the upside here, but we got a full body close up here of a candle. So it's a partially truncated fifth. So it's not pretty, but it could subdivide as a series of zigzags into a diag. So that could be 1. Alright, and that could be the low. We could then say, well, this is 5, this is 3, and this is 5, and that's A, B, C, and this here was the 2. Now from here we can then go up in easily what's definitely 1, 2, right? And there's absolutely no doubt in my mind, if that we were interpreting that this is absolutely 1, 2 as well. Okay, so we are extending. This would be a lower wave degree, probably minute, and this would be minuet. So we're going 1, 2, 1, 2. Now this could be 3, 4 as it hasn't overlapped, but I would probably call 1, 2 again, to be absolutely honest with you, if I was looking at it, because I think I can see a long wave here for a 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and therefore we would get sub-minuet degree in like that. So as you can see, picking through the minutiae detail, yes, it's interesting. I know my charts often look a bit blank, but for the moment, doing this is not particularly rewarding, because we could also quite easily look at this as a series of three-way swings. 3 to here, 3 to here, and 3 to here. And then we're going to impulse lower. Okay, so just to be clear, we could have bottomed, we may be one more move down, but for the reason why I'm a little suspicious is we don't have the luxury of even forcing a diagonal into Bitcoin. Now I'm not saying it has to. There is a blind spot in the crypto community, a rather massive one in my opinion, which is the belief that nothing can do anything different from what Bitcoin's doing, and I think that's very flawed thinking. And I think we only have to look at the massive number of coins which failed to make new all-time highs to realise that they don't have to do what Bitcoin's doing, and therefore they don't have to bottom when Bitcoin bottoms, and they don't have to bottom like Bitcoin bottoms. Alright, does that mean that they will likely be highly correlated 99.9% of the time? Maybe. Does it mean that there might be 1 or 2 which find their lows a matter of hours or days early? I think that's possible. You might disagree, but I think that's possible. So, accounting for that, yes, it's possible that Link has bottomed here and will continue to head higher, and we'll keep an eye on it as it progresses, but it's also possible it's going to come lower. Now, having expressed my distaste for that being a wave 4 relative to being within side of this wave count, because like I said, that's the 1 and the 2, this looks pretty disproportionate as 3, 4, but it's believable. It's disproportionate, but it's believable. So let's look at an alternate which accommodates that structure better. Okay, So let's look at this. Now here's an idea that's slightly different. We get 5 inside of here for an A. We then get a 3-wave swing, double zigzag, for a B. We then take, excuse me, double clicking on the chart, we then take the same diagonal idea but we count it as 1. 1, 2, 3 and 4 now look more proportionate than this 1 and 2, 3 and 4. More proportionate, and then we thrust down in the 5th. So this will be my alternate and suggest that we will go lower again. Now the 3 itself is shorter. So what would be interesting would be if we came up and overlapped the 1. And it could be a larger diag. Right? We'll have to wait and see. So that's the alternate idea. That's the primary idea for the moment. We may have one more move down, or we may well have bottomed. Okay, so now let's do some classic technical analysis to wrap up the video. Okay, so let's turn off the count, bring up our indicators to do our classical analysis here as well. Actually, you know what, before we do that, let's look at a few basic things on the chart first. I just want to point out structural support. Right, so we've got a series of highs which are operating as resistance, now operating as support. Potentially didn't quite come to it exactly, but we're in the neighbourhood of it. We can see how that support, if we take our fixed volume profile here, is right in this little divot in the fixed volume profile. Now the reason this happens is because we only tend to spend a very small amount of time at highs and at lows. Not all the time, we may have some more meandering lows, but generally when we get this whipsawing action, the peaks and the troughs tend to form divots in the volume profile rather than peaks. The peaks is where the actual trading goes on, this choppy sideways stuff here, right? That's where we get the peaks. But the peaks in the volume profile is the peaks in price tend to be accompanied by these little divots. Okay, and these tend to represent, not all the time, but they tend to represent the extreme of the move. So the high and the extreme low, and these are traditionally structural supports. So resistance becoming support, okay, and support becoming resistance, vice versa. So sometimes looking for divots in the volume profile can actually be a sign of where we're going to find structural support in the market. Now let's move on and have a look at, what did I want to look at here? I've got an interesting pitchfork I wanted to share as well. Where is it? Here it is. So I'm using a modified shift pitchfork. This is actually a shift, excuse me, sorry, I've changed it and saved it incorrectly. Modified shift. What I find interesting about this move down off of this pivot is that we keep coming back to test this median line. We've just done it again recently. Peaks in the volume, as you can see, as we come down and test these lows. Now we body the candle most of the time above the median. We wick through it, but we try to body the candle on it or above it. Now we could interpret this as the median line being the magnet here. We could also interpret this as the a basic shift. But if we use a full fib pitchfork, we can see that the 23.6, 78.6, 23.6, median 23.6, 23.6. We're basically channeling between these levels if we look at it as a shift pitchfork. So it's a case of take your pick. There's obvious levels here, right? 23.6, 23.6, 23.6, 23.6, 38.2 in this case, right? That we're obviously touching. Now we can sum this up much more simply by just simply saying, oh look, there's a downward trend line, right? Okay, so don't have to make it complicated by throwing pitchforks and everything. Trend's your friend, and looking at trend lines is often just the simplest thing you can do. Support, bounce, support, bounce, support, bounce, support, bounce, support, bounce. Now overall we have a descending trend line as well. This whole thing kind of looks like a diagonal, right? And that opens up another possibility as well in terms of how to interpret the count. So, well, this is just another sign, this contracting price data, whether we look at this as an impulse, as I've looked at it here, with a diagonal into an impulse, A, B, C. It looks so much better in log, guys. That's the thing. I was looking at an arithmetic there. When you look at the chart in arithmetic, it gives you a completely different vibe than how you look at it in log. Okay, if we try to pull that same thing off in log, that trend line, look at it, it cuts through price. Doesn't come down to here, and it sure as hell doesn't look diagonal then, does it? You see? So, just another thing to consider. May have got a little distracted there. Distracted myself for a moment then. Either way, we keep testing this lower trend line and we keep bouncing. We've got some stronger volume here at the lows. A few nice a few green bars here. With the higher pricing being supported by higher readings in the volume at the moment. So that's quite bullish. High, higher, high, 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 high. Still below the zero bound in the MACD, building some bullish momentum but not trending in positive territory yet. RSI has moved through neutral but is not in overbought conditions yet either. Would like to see it start the trend in overbought conditions. On balance volume is quite an interesting little read here actually, if we look at it in the daytime frame for a moment, because this is a cumulative measure of positive and negative days added together. So an obvious downward trend right here. We have since come back to prior levels and actually broken through them in the unbalanced volume. Now this is while the MACD, for example, in the same period has gone high, lower high, lower high currently, and the RSI has roughly done the same with a slightly lower peak in the second one there and then a lower peak now. But we've come back to similar levels in the OBV. So if we do continue to record positive cumulative volume pushing higher, right, that could be a sign that this was accumulation around here and a shift in sentiment to a more positive outlook. However, a lot of work to do yet. Now I've already shown you how we can subdivide this into 1, 2, 1, 2, so there's that to consider. Is there anything else to talk about? Moving averages, let's have a quick look. So on the daytime frame, we are back above the 10, back above the 20. 10 has now crossed through the 20, below the 60 and the 250. This has happened no less than what, 1, 2, 3, 4 previous occasions. Didn't quite pull it off here, didn't quite drag the 10 through the 20 here, but we did it here, and we did it here, and we did it here, and we did it here. So we're doing well again, so it could just be another correction. Or if we see that 20 come back up through the 60 and the 10 and start pushing towards the 250, that could be a sign of a stronger rally to come. The thing is though, as I previously mentioned, we're likely to be doing something like this. A bunch of 80% pullbacks before we finally get out of here. So it's going to be choppy. Let's come out to the weekly time frame for a moment. Let's see what we can see. As I say, I'm just going to go all the way out to the month. Just curious what kind of candle we had for last month's close. Moving averages with over 10, 20 and 60. Can't see the 250 at this level. Now, let's have a look at our indicators again. Now, in the RSI, we've done what I like to call a round trip again. So on the weekly time frame, we've gone from overbought all the way down to oversold. First time we've done it in Chainlink's history. Now, not much to brag about, being as it's not a very old asset. Okay, and it started in a bull market going higher. If we're going to bottom at a larger wave degree, finding oversold conditions on the weekly time frame, I consider to not be a necessary prerequisite, but it's very likely. And we've done that now. So we've done that long-term round trip on the weekly time frame. The MACD is cooling off now. Overall, we had our initial violent move down, and that each bearish phase has been supported with less momentum here in the histogram. We might get a crossover soon, but we're still setting lower lows and lower highs. Lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. If we can reverse that into higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, back towards that zero bound on the weekly time frame, that's going to start looking very positive. Most of the damage was done in that initial sell-off. We can see that if we come back to the daily time frame for a minute. Quite big volume in this sell-off here. and very extreme momentum readings down here, way below zero, and trending upwards since. Now, that's because the vast majority of the damage was done in that initial sell-off. We know we're down 90 odd percent, or we're down 90%, and 75% of that was done in that first single move down. So a lot of damage was done in that initial move. Alright then guys, I don't think there's much else for me to talk about now really. I've laid out my count and my alternate. So we'll leave it there for Chainlink, and we'll carry on with the general idea that we've either got one more move down, I feel, to find those lows within the next few weeks, or there's a possibility, a slimmer one, but there is a possibility we've already bottomed. So we'll wait and see what happens. So thank you for joining us on the technical analysis of Chainlink, and if you're new to the channel and you've liked what you've seen, please subscribe, smash the like, hit the little bell notification icon to remain informed of future video releases. Feel free to leave us a comment in the comment section below. And as always, a huge thank you to my Patreon subscribers. If you're interested in joining the Patreon, there's a link in the description box below. And if you're not following me on Twitter yet, please do so. I do intend to get one more crypto and a Bitcoin done for YouTube during the week, but it might have to wait till the weekend now because I've got my daughter's birthday today, and I've got her party at Saturday, so I'm just going to have to do the best I can. And I've also got my live stream for my Patreon tomorrow, so we're going to be looking at altcoins, we're going to be looking at Bitcoin, and we're probably going to be looking at a bunch of stocks as well, so I'll have to get back to you guys here on YouTube when I can. Until then, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon. All the best. Bye bye.